Hi everyone, today let's talk about how to design a grammar lesson. And the point I'm trying to make here is sometimes based on the textbook, we also need to make some changes. And here I'm going to use Unit 5 in Grade 7 as an example. So if you're interested, just keep watching. Well, before breaking it down, let's first think about what kind of stages we should include in a grammar lesson. Normally, after the lead-in, the first stage should be presentation, right? We need to present the new grammar rule. And of course, here we're trying to elicit some knowledge from the students. We can't do teacher talk all the time. And of course, we need to cover different aspects like meaning, form, usage, and sometimes pronunciation if there is some linking involved. And after the presentation stage, this is how the presentation stage looks like, from our textbook. Students can take a look at all the sentences and try to find out the rules by themselves. And after this part, we should do some practice, but there are different kinds of practice. So the third stage should be controlled practice. It's something like this. Well, this is what in our book. This is a typical controlled practice. You can see some short sentences are given, and of course the words are given. So students need to use the correct forms of the verbs to fill in the blanks. Well, why do we name it controlled practice? It's because at this stage, we're focusing on the accuracy of the activity, of the new grammar students just learned. That's why we're not giving them enough freedom. So this is the controlled practice. And after that, it comes to the semi-controlled practice. Have a look. This is what is on our book. Well, let's compare 3B and 3C first. What can you find? Is there any difference? Well, to be honest, the logic is quite similar, right? Some words are given and students need to use the correct forms of the verbs to fill in the blanks. But there is one key difference. For this part, there is a context. So it makes it more meaningful for students to do this part. But what about the next stage? If you're familiar with the framework of a grammar lesson, you should know by now it's time for students to do some freer activity, right? To focus on fluency. But let's take a look at what our book offers us. So in pairs, take turns miming different activities and guessing what they are. Here, 2 examples are given. Are you running? No, I'm not. Are you skating? Yes, I am. So let's think about what will happen in this activity. So for students who are doing the activities, who are miming different activities, he or she will only practice one sentence, like, no, I'm not. Yes, I am, right? And is there anything else? No. And for the other students, they are practicing one sentence pattern. Are you doing something? But let's go back to the presentation stage. What did we present to students for this grammar? Of course, we need to cover different sentence structures, right? Like how to form present continuous tense. First, positive sentence and negative sentence. Of course, yes or no questions and WH questions as well. So if we're doing the last practice in our lesson and we're only practicing one part we mentioned before, then what is the point? By the sound of this activity, it's definitely a very interesting thing to do, but is that really effective? Well, I doubt it. That's why I'm going to make some changes here. So this is what I did in one of my lessons. After 3C, after completing the postcard and dealing with some of the languages, like some useful phrases, I'm going to ask the students to write a reply. As you can see just now, Beth wrote to Kate, right? And now let's change that. So here Kate is going to write something to Beth. If you can pause the video and take a look at all the blanks. For example, let's take a look at paragraph 2. Right now, I'm doing something, but I'm also doing something. my sister is blah blah and my parents are blah blah. So what I'm trying to do here is that students practice the positive sentence structure. And after that, we can ask, are you doing something? So question form is practiced. And for paragraph 4, we can see I'm not doing something. So again, the negative form is practiced, right? And the last paragraph is your uncle doing something. I'd like to blah blah. And what are you doing blah blah? Where blah blah. So for the last paragraph, students need to use different question forms like yes or no questions and also WH questions. So if they are writing a reply like this, well, they can practice everything we learned in the presentation stage, which makes more sense to me, right? This is just my own personal idea. Of course, it can be right, it can be wrong. I mean, it depends on you to think about it. And if you think that's useful, then you can also use that in your own class. So that's basically everything I want to say today. Now let's quickly wrap up everything we talked about just now. So usually for a grammar lesson, first, of course, we need to have the lead in. And after that, presentation stage. Keep it sweet and short. Make it quick, because that's definitely not the most important part in a grammar lesson, because we need more time for students to do the exercise, to do the practice. And after that, controlled practice, semi-controlled practice, and the last one, freer practice. Well, technically, this is not a freer practice because, yes, students do have some freedom, but it's not that free, because what is in my mind is we do have limited time in our class. Normally, if it's a 45 minutes lesson, we could stop at the semi-controlled practice stage. But of course, if your students are performing really well, you can use the last stage, freer practice, as well. So how to change this one as a freer practice? What I would do is to ask the students to write a postcard to one of their friends in reality. So you can make it more personalized, make it more interactive, and at the same time, ask them to practice what they learned in this class. So fluency and accuracy at the same time, but at this stage, more fluency, right? Well, that's everything I want to share today. Hope it can be helpful. Bye.